Welcome to a parent's guide to prevent and reverse childhood obesity. My name is Tracy Palmatier, and I'm a registered dietitian. I am so glad and I appreciate you being here with me today. I'm so glad you're here taking the first steps you need to improve the health of your child and your family. This decision is the first step towards a healthier life. I've been working with children and their parents for over 10 years, improving their health. Childhood obesity is not going away. And with COVID, I'm seeing that it's only increasing. So the time is now. And again, I'm so happy you're here with me, and let's go ahead and get started. So I look at health in an integrative way. Our mind, body, and soul is interconnected. And so naturally, I wanted to build this course around these principles. So in section 1, we'll be diving deep into the mindset, looking at where you are in the stages of change, habits and behaviors, and any strategies to get started. In section 2, we'll be diving into nutrition with nourishing the body specifically, with what your child should eat and drink, identifying refined sugars, and how to provide balanced meals and snacks. So we'll really be diving into the nutrition section in that second section. In part 3, we'll be looking at ways to nourish the soul or spirit, specifically by establishing routines. So let's go ahead and dive into mindset. So first, I want to start with this quote: "Getting healthy is a process, not a destination." You're here taking the first step by being here in this course, and a process happens in steps. And I want to emphasize, for children, we should take small incremental steps. The goal is to incorporate a lifestyle change. So the destination is a healthy, happy, confident child. So keep this thought in the forefront of your mind as we go through this class, especially when it starts to feel a little bit difficult, might get frustrating, and things may come up for either you or your child. But let's keep, the principal thought of this course at the forefront. And we'll take it one step at a time. So I know ultimately this is for your child who you love, you have great admiration for, and you only want the best for your child. So we want to help them succeed and to help them live their happiest, healthiest life. So let's start by thinking about stages of change. So we use this cyclical model for the stages of change. And I like to use this model when I'm assessing my patients' parents, because we need to know before we get started where the mindset is. When I go through the stages, assess where you might be on this model. And, take any note of where you or your child might be. So we hope to get on this cycle once and hope that this is your case, but in reality, you may fall off, but you can always jump back on. So let's start at the beginning with pre-contemplation. So this is really, where do I start? The thought of not knowing where to turn. It's at the very beginning stages. Contemplation is the thought of, how can I find this change? What can I do in my life to get to where I want to go? The preparation, which I believe you're here in this course, you are in the preparation phase. You're doing researching, planning, you're getting committed to the process. So Congratulations for being in the preparation stage. The next stage is the action phase. So currently, that stage is when you're currently making changes. So you're setting into motion what you've learned. So take, for example, say you're emptying the cabinets out, you're emptying the pantry of unhealthy foods. You're in the midst of action. You may be cooking new recipes, planning new recipes. This again is the action phase. The next part is maintenance. And so that phase is when change is being implemented. It's part of your daily routines. You have routines down and you're continuing to learn and to make improvements. So maintenance is, I don't want to say it's the end phase because it's a continuing cyclical phase and cycle. So if at any part of this cycle or wheel you may fall off, it's just as easy to get back on. Please don't beat yourself up if there's any, mistakes being made, choices being made that are, unhealthy. Everybody does it. We might have setbacks, but let's get back on. Don't beat yourself up about it. Don't feel guilty. Just get right back on and do the best you can. So I hope you figured out where you are on the wheel and you can get started with making those next changes. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about habits. So everyone has habits. Unhealthy habits can happen unconsciously. So try to identify your own as well as your child's unhealthy habits. So I'll give you an example. Say one unhealthy habit might be taking a bag of chips, sitting on the couch and watching, television or screen and mindlessly eating. So that's a habit we need to break because we need to be present in the moment. We need to be mindful of what we're doing. So these habits have become part of our neural pathways in the brain. These are pathways that you can retrain the brain. And I'll talk more about consistency and routine because it helps retrain the brain with new, healthier pathways and new habits. But to start any change, you need to use small and specific habits. So I've got the example here of when kids get home from school, make it specific. We're going to do it Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We're going to walk around this neighborhood and we're going to walk for 30 minutes. So it's a very specific action step. Now, to set your child up for success, maybe have their shoes or jacket next to the door. So when they come home, they're ready to go. It's easy for them to do, and it's easier to become a habit. So like I was saying, make it easy for your child so it becomes more likely that it's easy to pick up a habit. Things that involve physical movement is easier to condition into a habit. So what that means is, saying something over actually doing something, taking an action is easier done sometimes to become a habit. So putting that physical movement into action will help something become a habit. So sometimes habits are easier will come easier if they have auditory or visual cues. And so an example for that might be to set an alarm when you get ready to walk. So it's a reminder. And, believe me, I have alarms set on my phone for a lot of things, because if I don't, I will forget them. Our lives are so busy and we get distracted. But another visual cue could be leaving a bowl of fruit on the counter for your child. So when they come home from school, they see a bowl of apples And hopefully the cue is that, oh, let's grab an apple instead of going to the pantry and getting some chips. So that constant visual cue hopefully will set them into a new habit. And along with reminders from you, that will be helpful as well. So mindful notes is another one. So we can set notes for ourselves or our child just as reminders. So positive words of encouragement, just little cues. They're just meant for reminders on what we should be doing towards our goal. So let's get started with talking about the process. So you are here now. We've already talked about being in the preparation phase. So live in this moment, have no guilt about what should have, could have, would have been. And let's keep your child's health always at the forefront. Okay. Step 2 is to unite the family. So one of the most important things that I highly stress is to get both parents on the same page about getting healthy and what that looks like for your family. So if you don't do this, you will be sending mixed messages to your children. And this also includes getting family members that may live with you or spend a lot of time with the child on board with the goals that you're setting. So not that you're being so strict, but if you have certain goals that you're trying to accomplish, this could send just mixed messages to the child. And with some kids, it actually gives them permission to continue unhealthy behaviors if those family members are not on board. So another thing is have enthusiasm and a positive tone, right? If we are, just not enthused about, trying to get healthy, where have negative tones, this is not going to work, we've tried this before, and that is going to have a negative effect on your child. Okay, so we want to stay positive. Try to remember your tone when talking about these things. Okay, your child will mimic your behavior. So immediately it can occur or over time. So if you want your child to instill a certain behavior, you want to also try and do that as well. Okay. It's easier to tell them to go and do something, but do something different yourself. That's setting different messages, mixed messages to your child. So, and remember, a home divided falls, a home united stands. So again, that's all about you uniting the family, keeping the goals together, have everyone on board with all the goals that you're trying to set and work with your child. All right. In step 3, you want to include your children. Talk to them, tell them why this is happening, why you're making changes, and let them ask questions. Now, this is going to look different for the different stages that your child is in, depending on what age they are. So this conversation is going to look very different. So, I would say, maybe talk a little bit about the importance of getting healthy and just a couple of ways on strategies on doing that. So get them excited about doing this together. So include them in the process. So include them in meal planning. So maybe having them choose, instead of peas, you're going to do carrots. Just little decision making that you can make in your recipe to get them to eat the recipe that you're trying to make or modify. Get them involved with grocery shopping. This could be a really fun activity for kids. They like to become a part of the process. And also get them involved in the kitchen. So smaller kids can have little things to do, or you can actually have older children do, some simple tasks. Some supervised and some can be unsupervised. So That's all up to your judgment. Now, if there is resistance, you might have to stop and reevaluate. Are you going too quickly? Are there things that can be shifted? Maybe take things a little bit more slowly. Just evaluate your child and feel it out. So, and it's important to praise your child for whatever stage they're in, for little improvements, little things that they're trying to do, and make, I would say, give them praise all along the way. Okay, it goes really far to give positive reinforcement. Step number 4 is examine your food traditions. Now, this is a big one. So the key behind this is making a plan for food swaps and modifications. And what I mean is, take a recipe that you love, something that's maybe, a traditional recipe, and just slightly modify it, right? It can be, instead of using regular butter, use a vegetable-based butter, something simple like that, where you're reducing sugar, reducing carbohydrates, making it just slightly healthy, can make a huge difference in the amount of calories that you're providing. So look at those recipes and make modifications where you can. Okay. Planning ahead is key. Always think about what you will bring to the party or event or the cookout. It's so important to have some go-to recipes that are healthy, easy to make, and plan ahead, because, if you're left with just trying to bring something last minute, it usually sometimes doesn't work out. So think about portion sizes too. So we are traditionally, not thinking about portion sizes, and we'll be scooping out spaghetti or mashed potatoes or things like that. And so we really need to think about, be more mindful of the portion sizes, especially for our children. So in thinking about being mindful too, discuss maybe with your children after they've eaten something, if they're not quite feeling well after they ate it, or they have a tummy ache, or maybe they had to go to the bathroom after they ate a certain food, just maybe talk with them about how they're feeling and the food choices they made, because that connection to food and not feeling well can be a really important connection to feeling their body and recognize their body and really being present in their body. So bring awareness to the body is very, very important. All right. Step number 5, recognize the cost of change. So what is the cost if you don't follow through? What is the cost if, you decide to continue the way you've been continuing, right? You may have a diagnosis from your doctor that scares you or maybe confuses you, and you're not sure what's going to happen down the road if you continue. So, I think about the children that have lack of confidence, depression, and that's really tough for a child to handle. So again, the mind, the body, and the soul is all connected, and we need to really concentrate on what we're putting into our body. We don't want a health crisis to occur to start with prevention. So let's get the process, let's get the ball rolling here and prevent disease and illness. So the cost may include time and money spent at the doctor, emotional cost to you and family, emotional cost to your child. It's a high price to pay. So I also think about, what might your child be missing out on? Fun events, low confidence, emotional instability. So it's a very high cost. Step number 6, determine the price you're willing to pay. So the price includes money, but it also includes time and emotions. Okay, so this requires commitment on your part. And this might be difficult for some parents to say yes or no to some foods. You know, you've always maybe said yes to a certain thing, and now you're going to say no. So it's all about, you know, getting your mindset right and being consistent. So we're trying to help our children live their best, healthiest lives. So, you know, if you're not succeeding at first, keep trying. You might have to alter a recipe, maybe try different vegetables, different food products. So always make modifications, shift things around, but don't give up. So number 7 is develop a positive attitude. And we talked a little bit about this. So your attitude will set the tone for the journey, and your child will be influenced by your true feelings and attitude, right? So I think that says it all. Step number 8. So this is where we're going to take some action steps. So step number 8 is begin to add. So start to add produce, fruits and vegetables. They can be raw, they can be cooked. Next, add protein foods with all meals and snacks. So here's some examples of what protein foods are. And then add more water. Some kids are not drinking very much water. We need to add more water to their diets. All right. Step number 9, begin to subtract. So what we're going to eliminate, and we're going to do this slowly, is eliminate ultra processed foods. So we want to eliminate, starting by looking at the food label, especially under the ingredient list, anything that says hydrolyzed, artificial flavors and colors, anything that's hydrogenated. So margarines are usually hydrogenated, oils are used there. A lot of pre-made baked goods are using hydrogenated oils, chips and other types of oils, eliminating and reducing white refined sugar. So these are foods that have ingredients with high fructose corn syrup, brown sugar, cane syrup. So, and this is going to happen slowly, right? We're not going to eliminate everything all at once. But we are going to, when you're in the grocery store, I say take 2 items, compare it, and the best ingredient wins, basically. And then we also want to look at low-fat items like dairy and meats. So any kind of cheese, yogurt, milk that you're providing, just make it a low-fat variety, as well as the meats. Try and get the most lean meats that you can. The highest percentage on that meat is going to say, 93 to 97% fat-free. Okay. Step number 10 is learning to make modifications. So we've been talking about modifying and swapping. So this course is not about taking away all foods and replacing them. We are simply swapping them out and modifying them to make them more healthy versions. So less sugar, less salt, less saturated fat. Okay. All right, step 11, have incentives. So food can be very emotional for people and for some kids. So it may provide comfort or emotional factors for them. So I would say have rewards for your child for doing well, but not with food. Don't reward them with food. Okay, let's use other things like family outings, doing really fun things together, like going to the movies, things that they enjoy doing with the family, right? This is the ultimate reward, being with family. Step number 12 is celebrating. So little things that, like, you look radiant today, will give kids just a little boost to start the day, right? Or thank them. Thank you for trying this new recipe. Thank you for trying this vegetable. Remember, we become what we eat. So whichever food we eat, our cells for our eyes, brains, and heart become every part of us. So let's give positive feedback to our children, even with the smallest change, smallest victory. Let's give them some positive feedback. So the outcome is going to be not only measured by numbers, by lab work at the doctor's office, by money that you're going to be saving. It's going to be an overall wellness, an overall well-being for your child's mind, body, and soul. And this is the most amazing gift we can give them. So change may be difficult for a lot of children. And like I said, we are not going to do a drastic overhaul all at once. We're going to start small. Start by offering additional options at meal times like peas or broccoli, and have the child make the decision. But they have to choose one. So take note and reduce carbohydrate portions. So we're starting small there. So like if you're having spaghetti and meatballs, we're going to reduce the carbohydrate portions and increase the protein portions. And we're going to go through this more in depth in the nutrition section. So if you're serving spaghetti, maybe we'll skip the garlic bread because that's also carbs. And then we'll also, replace juice with water because juice is also carbs. So just little ways to cut calories throughout the meal, and replacing it with other things so that the child stays, satisfied and full at the end of the meal. Okay. So one thing that I have to stress is if your child is not currently eating breakfast, start small. So start with a piece of fruit, or start with a piece of toast and peanut butter, or even Greek yogurt with some berries. Start small, and the body will find a natural way to become hungry at those times that we feed it. So if we do something small every day, every morning, at the same time, we'll find over time that the body actually does get hungry. If your child is refusing, I would say, pack them the most healthy lunch possible, so that they're getting a good, nutritious lunch. I know a lot of children eat school lunches, and they try to make the school lunch as balanced as possible. And that's where, teaching your child what a balanced meal looks like at home so that they can make those decisions when they get to school. One thing that I usually recommend to my parents is to not keep certain foods that your child craves at home. So for instance, if they crave a certain chip or ice cream, if that's something that they go to, bring in an alternate, healthier version of whatever that is, and then work with the portions on that. If it's something that is really craved by your child, we need to really curb that and pay attention to that. We're not going to totally deny them of that, but like I said, we need to replace that with something more healthy. And usually a craving, and we'll talk later about cravings, but it usually means that there's something missing from the diet if they're craving, or it could be that they're not getting enough protein earlier in the day, or with the last meal, that they're still hungry. So make those considerations there. Okay, so some strategies, how to incorporate healthy food without too much kickback. The first thing here is, you don't want to nag your child. You want to be firm, but not in a nagging way, right? So the one thing I do with my son is, if you don't eat your fill in the blank carrots tonight, then no, thing after mealtime, whatever that thing is, that reward after mealtime. So make sure, again, that the family members, parents are on the same page with the goals. Set the example. So if you're trying to encourage your child to eat carrots, you too should be the example and eat your carrots, and have your child see you eat your carrots. And I also like to make comments about, how good these carrots are today. These are the best carrots today. These are the sweetest carrots I've ever had. Little comments like that really, the child will think about it and consider it. So maybe not right away, but over time. So for younger kids, making eating fun, so you can count the carrots, talk about the color, the taste, the benefits of eating them, tell them that carrots are great for strong, healthy eyes, things like that, to make it more interesting and fun for them. So for some kids, making the food look appetizing is really important. Plain is sometimes better here. I found that for my son, putting sauce or gravy on top of the food was not appealing to him at all. So, so the more plain the food was for him, the more he ate. So he didn't like his food slathered in sauce. Every child is different. So you just have to find what works for you. Some kids are more about the arrangement of food on the plate. You can't have food touching, or just how it's arranged. Kids can get very particular with that. But let's also make sure that their plate has lots of color on the plate, meaning lots of different variety. And this lets us know that there's, a variety of vitamins and nutrients, and they're getting a nutritious meal. So number 6, if you have your child help pack their lunch, for time's sake, doing this in the evening may be better for some kids, but repetition of making lunch is helpful. This will carry over to other meals. For other kids or older kids, you can lay out the options on the counter and say, okay, go ahead and make your lunch. Here's the ingredients that you need, and go ahead and make your lunch. You can offer a couple of different choices. Would you rather this or that? And let them choose. It's all about letting the child make their own choices sometimes, but don't give them too many options. 1 to 2 choices is usually good. And, would you choose this healthy option or that healthy option, and let them choose. And alternative snack foods is really important, because everyone, kids like to snack, kids get hungry in between meals. So, for example, if your child likes crunchy foods like chips with a sandwich, include maybe some pretzels. You can introduce some hummus at some point, corn chips and salsa, to kind of keep those chips there, but you're making it more healthy now. Okay. So number 9, I always tell folks, have about 5 quick and easy meals stocked in your pantry. There are those days when unexpected things happen, and you never want to be in a bind for what am I going to make last minute. Okay. This is where I see steps taken backwards and get sidetracked and back into old habits. So let's mention a few great examples here. It's always good to keep frozen and canned vegetables, beans, frozen shrimp, fish, chicken breast, brown rice, quinoa. These are just a few things maybe to keep it at the house. But a quick saute can be made, a quick meal can be made from any of those combinations. So I like to keep frozen pesto on hand for a quick sauce, or canned tomatoes, and put those together. And, very quickly, I'd say in less than 30 minutes, you have a full meal. So try and keep those things on hand. Okay. Something that I always hear from my patients is that I can't afford to eat healthy, or it's too expensive to eat healthy. This is what I tell most folks: to start by looking at buying store name brands instead of, or store brands instead of name brands, right? They're just as nutritious, but less expensive. Okay. Of course, we're also going to keep an eye on the sales and stock up. If you have freezer room, buy things that are on sale, keep it. If it's frozen, keep it in the freezer, or stock up and keep things in the pantry. Dried beans are a great source of protein, and they're inexpensive. There's a little bit of work involved with making dried beans. But if you can, one thing I learned is that making dried beans in the Instapot is super easy and fast. I think it took me 40 minutes to make dried beans in the Instapot, from dried to prepared beans that you can eat. So there's ways to work with those things. Very inexpensive. Even canned beans are a good option. And that can help with those quick and easy meals as well. Maybe consider a small garden or some potted plants on a porch or balcony. So even little things like tomatoes or peas, or even a pot of basil. It's so important to teach our children, from seed to plant, about plants, where our food comes from. And if we can just start small, I think that's a really good educational tool for your child. The last thing is batch cooking. So if you have a crock pot, an Instapot, a Dutch oven, break those out, because they save you so much time and money. So you can make these larger meals and either freeze them or use them as leftovers. But batch cooking is just a time saver and a money saver. And that's the way to go. You do have to set some time aside for meal prep and for cooking everything, but it's worth it in the long run. All right, let's get talking about nourishing the body. Let's jump into nutrition. All right. So this is a list based on the Mediterranean diet. So the most researched and highly proven diet is the Mediterranean diet. It's shown to be preventative and can reverse disease and illness, especially heart disease. So I've named this the GO list because these are all heart healthy. These are lean meats. The carbohydrates are in the middle. They're complex carbohydrates. And on the right, you have your healthy mono and polyunsaturated fats. This entire list is what you want to comprise most of your food of, okay? Most of your meals. So, and each meal, and try to make each snack have all three of these as well. Not specifically these foods, but protein, carbs, and fats, okay? So protein is important for whenever the body is growing, repairing, or replacing tissue. Sometimes the role of protein is to facilitate or regulate, become part of a structure. So take note of all of these protein type foods. These are very lean, heart healthy. I want you to seriously consider tofu. I get a lot of kickback when I talk to some people about tofu. It is a plant-based protein. It's a nice light protein. made from soybeans. It has almost no flavor and will take on whatever flavor you give it. If you're putting in a soup or stew, however you're preparing it, there's so many different ways to prepare it, and we'll talk a little bit about that. I'll give you one good example. I like to blend it up and use it as ricotta cheese and lasagna. Nobody ever notices that it's tofu because it has the same texture. It has the same taste. I'm putting spices, I'm putting basil and salt and pepper and egg in it, just like I would ricotta cheese. And it tastes like ricotta cheese. So I also make chocolate pudding with it. You get a silken tofu and you can blend it, and it is smooth and creamy, and added melted chocolate chips to it, and you've got yourself a really nice healthy chocolate pudding. So there's unlimited uses there. So and it's inexpensive. You can get a container of it for about $2 to $3. And so the next section is in the middle is complex carbohydrates. So these are broken down to supply glucose in the body, turns to energy. And so it's absorbed and turned into energy. So complex carbs are not refined. Okay. So refined means processed by machines, and it's in its natural state. So think of a whole rolled oat. Okay. It takes time to cook because of all the fiber there. Think of quick oats. There's no fiber there. They cook in, 2 minutes on the stovetop and they're done. Same as white rice versus brown rice. It takes a lot longer because of the fiber that's in the whole grain. So we want to keep that fiber there. There's so many health benefits for fiber. We know that fiber lowers cholesterol, prevents heart disease, reduces diabetes. It keeps the intestines healthy. We know with new research now that high fiber diets lower colon cancer. So get that fiber in. It fights all different kinds of cancers and promotes weight loss. So one reminder with fiber is to increase your intake intake, because you will become constipated or have difficult bowel movements, and we don't want that for your child. So next on the right-hand side is your healthy fats. So these provide energy. It insulates us against extreme temperatures, protects us against shock, maintains cell membranes. And I want you to remember, fat provides more than twice the energy of carbs and protein, right? So we can think of high-fat foods. You can taste a high-fat food even when you're eating it. Just the mouthfeel, you know that there's more calories there. And so when we eat fats in excess, that causes issues with weight gain, and it causes a cascade effect with our health. So I want to mention everything should be in moderation, right? So it's key, because anything in excess can be harmful. Okay, that goes for anything in life. So everything in moderation. Okay, next slide. So here we have foods that we should eat in moderation. Okay, so we're going to slow down. This is in yellow, yield. Again, your proteins there on the left are have slightly more saturated fat. So you want to eat these only sometimes. The carbs here may be more refined or have some added sugars to them. And the fats on the right have less omega-3s. Remember, omega-3s is what we want for heart health. It helps to reduce inflammation. And so we want to slow down and reevaluate, not eat too many of these foods. Okay, and with this red page, we want to stop. We want to rarely eat these foods. Okay, so these foods are mostly processed and refined. They are stripped of health benefits, including vitamins, minerals, fiber, and they're usually fortified. So think of kids' cereals. We usually see that they're fortified in minerals and vitamins. So the proteins here on the left, again, are high in unhealthy saturated fat. Okay, they're usually high in sodium and most likely high in preservatives and other additives. So we want to limit these. Carbohydrates here, again, are stripped of healthy fiber. And so these carbs get absorbed quickly into the bloodstream and shock the pancreas. So the pancreas will, when it gets the signal that there's glucose, it dumps insulin into the bloodstream to work on it so that the glucose gets into all the cells. That's how we get our energy into the cells. So research is showing that the high circulating glucose in the bloodstream is thick and sticky, causing inflammation in their arteries and veins. So many parents will tell me that they hand their child a Pop-Tart on the way out the door to school. And I think about that child and what's going on in their body. And it's just, over time, they're becoming insulin resistant, right? They're getting that dump of glucose into the bloodstream and then the flood of insulin to work on that glucose. And that's how the cascade starts. So next are the oils. Again, they're highly processed, low in omega-3s. Omega-3s are the heart healthy fats that you want. These fats here are high in omega-6. So omega-6s, we know, cause inflammation. They're less cardiovascular, have less cardiovascular benefits. And these are found a lot in our chips and in our cooking oils and other baked goods. You can see down there at the bottom, all the cakes and cookies and donuts and fries are high in those omega-6 oils. So again, these are high in omega-6s, causing inflammation, just really, really bad for us. We want to really limit these foods. Eat in very small amounts if you can help it. Our fast foods are loaded with each one of these categories. Okay, so if we're going to do fast food, I would really limit it to not doing it very often. All right. So eating a rainbow, I'm sure you've heard of this expression, is eating a variety. That's what it's all about, eating a variety of colors, nutrients. So let's also mention that our food is our medicine, right? Because it has all these different nutrients and vitamins, it's being protective against all our different organs and body functions and our cells. So it's also called functional foods. These foods contain antioxidants. Kids need to get vitamins and minerals from their food, okay? So it's great if you take a multivitamin, but our vitamins and minerals should be coming from our food. So our kids are, constantly growing, their bodies are changing. And so we need to be giving them a very highly nutritious diet. So the variety is not only many vitamins and vegetables, but also beneficial in phytochemicals like flavonoids and other compounds that are medicinal. Oops. And provide a variety of cooked as well as uncooked vegetables. So vitamins and minerals can be lost in the boiling and steaming process, so provide them both. Veggies are mostly low in carbohydrates, except for two, okay? Those two are corn and potatoes. So limit these carbs. Potatoes, if you're gonna cook potatoes, leave the skin on, like home fries or potato salad. And be cautious with corn products like chips and wraps and other things like that. Okay, it's easy to overdo those. The ultimate goal is to get to where you're eating whole foods. Okay, majority of your food should be whole foods, food in its most natural form. All right. So be observant with what kids are eating. Are they choosing more carbs? If that's the case, are they eating enough protein foods? Really try and be observant here with kids' diets. Are they eating a variety of fruit, vegetables, whole grains? The body will crave what it's missing. A true craving out of the blue usually means the body is needing a certain vitamin or mineral. And also pay attention to if they're drinking enough water. Hunger can sometimes be disguised as thirst. So one thing I want to mention here too is if there's other eating behaviors like binging, which is where a child might be hiding foods or eating, away from family members or eating in their room late at night in secret, this might be a larger issue, and please seek further help, as in a therapist that specializes in food addiction. So this is just something to really pay attention to and to seek further help. So changes in eating can also be caused or due to, the age of the child, just going through natural growth spurts, stressors in the environment. It could be a variety of things that are happening that are just putting stress on the child. Increasing or decreasing activity level can cause changes in eating. And then, like I mentioned, growth spurts or even puberty can cause changes in eating. So just paying attention to little things like this, I think, can give you a heads up with a lot of this too. So let's talk a little bit about beverages now. And one thing that I tell, almost all my patients is let's not drink our calories. Okay. So if you're trying to cut calories, the easiest way to get calories is to drink them. And so let's cut out the sugar and saturated fat in our kids' drinks. And that's just one easy way to get the calories out. Okay. So getting back to the green, the red, the green, the yellow, and the red, the go, the slow, and the stop. We can use this for our beverages too. So we discussed the importance of increasing foods with fiber, like our fruits, vegetables, complex carbs. But it is essential to increase your water or your child will be constipated or have painful bowel movements, right? So important to get enough fluids. So I have to mention tooth health here. So it's really important that, kids are brushing, because even after a sugary beverage, you're bathing the teeth in sugar. And so making sure that they're brushing after a high sugar beverage, or just decreasing the sugar in their beverages can really help with tooth decay. So the top two beverages, I would say water, and 2% milk after age 2, right? Children don't need that extra saturated fat and calories in whole milk. So 2% milk, and even plain soy, almond milk, or oat milk is a good substitute. So the slow section, the diet drinks. So these contain artificial sweeteners. So we want to limit these. So these artificial sweeteners are not the best. They're sending signals to our brain thinking that we're getting sugar. And what's happening is our pancreas is sending out insulin, and there's no glucose for the insulin to work on. And so we're seeing that it actually causes weight gain with diet drinks. And so let's limit those to once in a while. The same thing with juice. And so we need to limit juice, because juice is sugar, even though it's an all natural juice. I'll hear parents say, well, I get 100% juice, but they'll give them 8 ounces of juice at a sitting. Remember, 4 ounces of juice, which is only about that big, it's a very small cup, is about 15 grams of carbohydrates. And so other foods that are 15 grams of carbohydrates are a slice of bread, a serving of rice or pasta. So there's a lot of carbohydrates in just 4 ounces. So we need to just watch how much, the serving size again, how much juice we're giving, and then you can always water it down to, add more water there to provide 8 ounces of beverage. And so the last section is in the red. So it's drinks you should rarely provide, which is sugar drinks. So that includes soda, iced tea, lemonade, Kool-Aid, and I'm going to include coffee drinks there because I noticed a lot of the teens, preteens, they like to drink, Starbucks type coffees. And there's a lot of calories there. So again, sports drinks, I would rarely drink those unless your child is very active in sports and they're sweating a lot and they need to replace those electrolytes. But there's a lot of extra calories, sugar, electrolytes, and other vitamins and minerals that they don't normally need if they're not being very active and sweating those electrolytes out. So and the last one is smoothies and milkshakes. So unless you're making these at home and you know the ingredients that are in it, I would avoid these because they're usually made with a ton of sugar. They're made with high fat if it's a milkshake. So these are just some easy ways to cut out, again, calories from your diet. Okay, so here's a chart on how to estimate your child's basic calorie and protein needs. So I just want to say this is an estimate based on average height, weight, and activity level. I can't give you an exact number because I would need to, assess your child. But for example, our nutrition labels are based on a 2,000 adult calorie intake. So with more or less exercises, these numbers will change. So the same thing with this chart. So again, because of this, I can't give you detailed information on your child, only estimated ranges. So if you are providing protein with all your meals and snacks, you'll probably likely be meeting protein requirements for your child. So these estimates here, you should be using them as a guideline, okay? In saying this, if you would like more detailed information for your child's need, okay, you can always sign up for an initial consult with me. I am currently only licensed in North Carolina and can see folks 50 miles across the border in any direction from North Carolina. So let's talk a little bit about balancing meals and snacks. So here I've provided you the top list, or the top horizontal column or row is breakfast, and under that is lunch and supper. And so I've given you 3 different meals here. And I wanted to just point out the carbs and the protein. So you get used to seeing that there should be a substantial carb, but a more substantial protein, okay? And this is important for keeping the child full. I do see a lot of children that are not meeting their needs, not anywhere close to their needs with protein. So wherever we can add it, try and add in some protein. So I would say fill in if there's, this doesn't have to be an exact, these are just all examples. So if you need to replace, an apple with, say, a banana, or make swaps out, you can do that for your child's specific needs. So I would say if your child is still hungry after eating all the food on their plate, I want you to think about this. Always offer second helpings of protein first, and then vegetables too. So we want to offer carbs last because, again, that's, usually higher calories, and kids are usually not meeting the needs for protein, and protein really is what is going to help you keep full. So go ahead and offer those servings of protein. So I want to offer you a special discount today because you're part of this course. And I can't give you specific advice about your child. I'm going to give you a discount for signing up for either a yearly maintenance course or a one consult and one follow-up consult. So if you go to, this is my website here, it's rootsourcewellness.com. If you go into services under nutrition services, choose which one you want. The yearly maintenance is usually $9.99, but with 25% off with the promo code GUIDE22, you'll get it for $7.49, and that includes 6 consults with me. And the other option is for one consult and one follow-up. The consults are 90 minutes, follow-up is 45 minutes. And those 2 sessions are usually $225, but with 25% off, that's $168-ish. Again, use the promo code GUIDE22. This is a limited time offer. So, but because you're part of this course, I wanted to give you this offer and give you a discount. If you need more in-depth counseling, either with nutrition needs or whatever your needs might be, maybe it's even guidance through the maintenance phase, whatever that might be, you can reach out to me and we can meet and work with your child's specific needs. Okay, let's get on to reading food labels because this is a must. So I can't stress this enough. If you're not reading food labels, please start today. So this is where all the important information about what you're eating resides. Okay, so let's start at the top in the green. By the way, labels aren't colored like this. There's no color coding. So start with the serving size and the calories. So this product has 8 servings of 2/3 of a cup per container. So that's important to know because all the information below refers to only 2/3 of a cup. Okay, so we know 2/3 of a cup is 230 calories. And if you double the serving size, you have to double all the numbers below. Okay, so I am not a count every calorie type of dietitian, but it is important to see where your calories are coming from. So if you're buying a product for your teen, like that coffee drink I was talking about, that's 300 or 400 or 500 calories per drink, that's equals an entire meal. So we need to know where our calories are coming from. Okay. So that drink is what we call as empty calories. There's no nutrition benefit, only calories, whereas a meal is packed with vitamins and minerals. So moving down to the red section, we want to limit all of these except for the ones in blue, the fiber and the protein. So everything in red. And notice that on the left, there's the grams, and on the right are the percentages. And so the percentage is the daily value out of 100%. So it's nice to have both of these numbers if you don't remember how many grams you should be having of what. So I would keep an eye on sodium, keeping it less than 180 milligrams per serving. Chips and crackers are usually sky high here in sodium, and then the serving sizes are small. So keep an eye on that. And I'll say here too, pre-portioning is so important with those types of snack foods, right? Take them out of the bag, put them in a small bowl, and that's your serving size. Sitting down with a bag is dangerous, okay? So the labels in blue, we want to get lots of these. So I want to tell you a quick story that happened to me recently. So I don't typically buy coconut milk yogurt, but I happened to buy it this one day. And when I got it home, I assumed that there's going to be protein in my yogurt just because most yogurts have protein. And so I turned over the carton when I got home just to look at it, just to see how much protein was in it. And it was 0 grams of protein. I was really surprised. I had no idea that, a coconut milk would not provide any protein. So anyway, my point in saying that is don't assume, read your labels, because that's where you're going to get all your information. Okay. So, new information below the protein line, the vitamin D, calcium, iron, and potassium were added recently because most people are deficient in these. Okay. So they wanted to, inform people how much of these vitamins and minerals they're getting. And I also wanted to note that always read your ingredient list, which is not labeled here, but I put the arrow down at the bottom, and that's where you're going to find where all your ingredients are. Okay. So if you want to pause this course right now and grab one of your favorite packaged foods and just look at it and review it, applying the principles that we just talked about, take a look at some of the items in your cabinet, see what, what's high in calories, see what's high in sodium, does certain foods have protein or not? Just take a look and you might be surprised. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about refined sugar and how to identify it. So why is it so important to drastically reduce refined sugar from your child's diet? So sugar is converted to the energy source glucose in the body. When it's not immediately used for energy, it's stored as fat. So new research is saying that sugar also contributes to cardiovascular disease, inflammation, and suppresses the immune system. An interesting fact about sugar and vitamin C. So they actually compete for receptors on the cells. So their structure is very similar to each other, vitamin C and sugar. And so that's why, we say that sugar suppresses immunity. It's fighting with vitamin C for those receptor sites. Okay. So stay away from vitamin C or any multivitamin gummies, anything that's, in a gummy form, because this is just added sugar, right? Unless you can find a low sugar one, which I know there's a few out there. I would just be wary of that. So on the topic of vitamins, while we're there, get a good chewable multi for your child, read the ingredients, make sure it meets at least 100% for all the vitamins and minerals listed. But again, here are some examples. There are, probably 5 times this list of types of sugar that you should be looking for. And I can give you a complete list of refined sugars and what to look for, because they're in all different shapes and names and just hidden ingredients that you wouldn't think of. So just beware. So let's talk about food swaps. So I understand fruit is not always going to take the place of cake and cookies and candy, but we have to start giving these as options. Okay. So, and again, everything in moderation. So if your diet is 90% healthy, you're doing all the right things, and you want to have that, give your child a donut, or you're out and, you're visiting with family, that's fine. Everything in moderation. So if, like I said, if your child is eating mostly healthy, just a little bit of sugar is fine. Again, birthday cake once in a while. You want your child to participate in celebrating the moment and include them. And so we're not going to be so strict with sugar like that. But I will say here are some swaps to consider. Again, it's not to be meant to take place of cookies, cakes, and candy, but to start to change the palate of your child, because the taste buds will change. And it's really a remarkable thing when you start to decrease the salt and the sugar in the diet, you start to taste foods differently. And because there's such strong flavors, it really does harm the taste buds. And so the dairy, the oil, and butter is really for the parent to replace in recipes and cooking. So just simple swaps, like I had mentioned earlier with the dairy in your recipes. So you can choose lower fat options. The oil, I would say choose more heart healthy options, which is going to be your extra virgin olive and canola oils. And then butter, again, we want to omit margarine oils and use butter in moderation, but you can also be doing a vegetable-based, heart-healthy, more monounsaturated, polyunsaturated version. Okay, here's that chocolate pie that I was telling you about. It's really just 3 ingredients. So the tofu, melted chocolate chips, and I did add a little bit of maple syrup to mine for a little bit more sweetness, very little bit though, and then 1 pie crust that is store-bought. You heat up the pie crust, you toast to get it nice and toasty. You blend the tofu with the melted chocolate chips and your syrup, blend it till it's really creamy and smooth, put it in the pie shell that's baked already. And then you put it in the refrigerator overnight, and it becomes more of a solid consistency. And it slices really nice. It's a really nice dessert. And everyone that I've served it to, they have no idea that it's tofu. So give it a shot. It's an inexpensive dessert to try. It's super easy to make. Give it a try. Let me know what you think. Send me a message. Okay, let's talk about food cravings. So like I was talking about earlier, sugar and salt are very, very strong flavors, and they can cause cravings. Okay, so cravings are really a result from unbalanced foods, right? And the perfect example is fast foods. Like we were talking about earlier, fast foods are just totally processed, refined foods. So in dealing with your child's food cravings, make sure again that you're providing enough lean protein during that meal or snack. Remember, snacks should also have protein in them. Or with them. Carbohydrates are not filling on their own. Think of like a small banana or a piece of bread. Within 45 minutes or so, that child is going to be hungry again, because our metabolism is so efficient and quick at breaking down those carbohydrates and using it for fuel. We need fiber, and we need protein to slow down that metabolism. So number 2 is increase potassium-rich foods. So this is really interesting. I've got a lot of patients that I've dealt with that had cravings, and they've said when they've increased their potassium-rich foods, like their dark green leafy vegetables, avocados, bananas, melons, all of those, their cravings really decrease. And for my older adults, that includes cravings for cigarettes, surprisingly. So not just foods. So part of the chemistry there, I'll just tell you quickly, is that each one of our cells has a sodium and a potassium pump, and it regulates the sodium potassium going in and out of the cell. So when we balance that potassium, it helps our cells to work more efficiently and to get the nutrients in and out of the cell. So, so there's something there to that about, providing the right amount of potassium versus sodium to each of the cells. So also we know that research is showing that sugar in excess is addictive, right? It has addictive qualities that can be seen in the brain when you do scans and things like that. So, and so this is contributing to disease, right? And so we need to bring this all back into balance. Okay, so let's talk about nourishing the soul. This is the last section. And it is so important to set routines for our children, right? So we know that it supports social and emotional development in early childhood. It's important for mental health. It reduces anxiety, promotes self-control, regulates energy levels, and it fosters confidence and independence. Okay, lots of good reasons to set routines. So number one routine, I would say, is to make a routine out of mealtime. So involve the kids again with mealtime, starting with planning, making the grocery list, going to the grocery store, helping in the kitchen. And that's all depending on time, but try and get them involved in some portion of that. And then keep mealtime consistent. So whether you're doing a breakfast mealtime or a supper mealtime, try and keep it consistent every day. At least once a day. And, this is a really great place to talk to your children about any concerns they might have, and also to reinforce the nutrition that, that you're learning here, and to talk about food and to be mindful. So kids, routines for activity. So kids are so naturally energetic, right? The body is primed and working well when they're young. Kids start gaining weight slowly when they're more sedentary. They're, home sitting still, and hormones become irregular, causing issues with mood, but the energy just needs a kickstart, right? Because the energy is stored and it's there. So when kids get active, they jumpstart their metabolism and things start getting back into rhythm. So, and that's just reuptaking the glucose into the cells for energy. So, my son is involved in soccer, and I'm just so surprised at what some of the parents bring for the and other activities he's been in, not just soccer, but what parents bring for kids to refuel, after they've been playing for an hour or so. It kind of boggles my mind that they would bring just sugar to try and refuel their kids. So be that parent that brings, the bag of tangerines, because, there'll always be that parent that brings, high sugar snacks. So, and kids will eat it, I promise. So get kids involved with school or community sports activities. So some kids will tell me that they don't want to be, after being at school all day with the same kids, they don't want to play sports with those kids. Okay, I get that. So let's find a community activity that they can get involved with. Another part of this is try and monitor screen time versus outdoor time. Again, we need that balance there. So just having a balance of outdoors and screen time, whether you're going to decide an hour of screen time equals an hour of outdoor time, that's up to you, however you decide. If you can become physically active with your child, think outside the box. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to play, baseball or soccer or basketball or anything like that. It could be, swim lessons at the Y, or something fun, dance lessons maybe, but something that, it's going to enhance the importance of the activity for the child if you do it with them. Okay. And of course, if you can be there for practices and sports events, it just encourages them even more. And also encourage kids to be outside, have fun, observe nature, right? Look at nature around you, all the things that are, that are alive and changing. And with this being outside, they're getting plenty of sunshine and vitamin D, which is so important. We found out through COVID that the folks that didn't do well with COVID were vitamin D deficient. And so sunshine actually gives us 15 to 20 minutes out in the sunshine will give us almost all the vitamin D needs that we need. So supplementing with vitamin D is something we can look at if we have a consult together. But consider that natural sunshine being outside for your child. And the last routine I want to really encourage is routines for sleep. So keep bedtime consistent, be firm, right? Try and keep, the routine around sleep the same. So you're going to do X, Y, and Z before bedtime, brush your teeth, get in your pajamas, just make a routine around sleep. And part of that should be shutting off screen time at least an hour before bed, right? To help them relax. That blue light really is not good for the circadian rhythm. So which helps with our sleep patterns. So it really is disturbing. So if we give ourselves about an hour before bed, it really helps with that. So, and remember the science behind sleep is healing, growing, and learning. So our children are processing what they've learned when they sleep. They're growing and repairing, their body, any injuries they may have had during the day. But kids are they grow all the time. So they need a lot of sleep, and every child is different. Some physicians say that they should be getting 10 to 12 hours, more or less for older children. So it's just really important to get adequate, good quality sleep too. So if you find that they're not sleeping, maybe there's something bothering them. Some children will ask, if they're scared, they might ask for a nightlight. I try and steer away from nightlights because that could be disturbing their sleep. But if you find a low light nightlight that might be comforting to them, go with that. Or add something else that's comforting to them in the room, right? So whether it's a comfortable blanket or toy or whatever that might be. It's so important. So one of the last slides is I want to just encourage you and give you this quote. So you are the greatest motivating factor in your child's life. You are the role model. You are the one that's there to be the role model, the motivating factor, the positive encouragement, the one that really is guiding them through this process. So, try your best to also provide them the guidance through being a model. Because your kids will mimic what you do. So if you're eating well, it might be a little bit easier for them to eat well. And if you're active with them, they might be more encouraged to be active as well. So I want to thank you so much for being here with me today. If you have any questions, email me at rootsourcehealth@gmail.com. Remember, the 25% off is for a limited amount of time. Go ahead and use the promo code for that. Any questions, please contact me. And I hope to see you back again if I have more courses. Be well, do the best you can, stay positive, take small steps, and I'm here for you. So everybody take care. Thank you again, and be well.